If you're in the world of AI or machine learning, you know that feeling, right? A huge new paper drops, everyone's talking about it, and you want to dive in, but it feels like hitting a brick wall. Well, today, we're going to change that. We're going to completely demystify how to read these incredibly complex but super important research papers. I mean, just think about it. Every single year, we're talking about thousands of new machine learning papers being published. It's a total fire hose of information. And if you try to keep up with all of it, you're just going to get buried. It's information overload, and it is real.
And this quote right here, it absolutely nails the problem. We've all been there. You grab a dense 15-page paper. You try to read it like a book, from start to finish, and by page 3, you're completely lost in the jargon, and you just give up. It's frustrating. But the thing is, that's not how you're supposed to do it.
So that's the big question, isn't it? How do you actually find those golden nuggets of information, the real breakthroughs, without completely frying your brain? Let me tell you, it's not about reading harder, it's about reading smarter.
And here's the secret. The folks who seem to just absorb all this stuff effortlessly, they're not just geniuses, though many of them are. They have a strategy. They do not read these things from page 1 to the end like a novel. They have a system, a clear plan of attack for every single paper they pick up.
And that system is called the multi-pass approach. Honestly, the best way to think about it is like peeling an onion. Each time you pass over the paper, you're peeling back another layer of complexity. You start with the big picture, the high-level stuff, and you only go deeper once you actually have the context you need. So here's our game plan. We'll quickly touch on that overload problem again. Then we're going to dive right into the multi-pass strategy. We'll break down the first couple of passes, then the deeper ones. And finally, we'll talk about how you go from just reading a paper to truly mastering it.
Okay, so as we said, the sheer volume of research out there is the first big hurdle. It's so easy to feel like you're just drowning. But with the right strategy, you can turn this massive, intimidating library into a resource that you can actually use. All right, let's get into the strategy itself. Andrew Ng, who's a huge name in AI, he compares this whole approach to a recommendation system. The first pass you do is like a quick filter. It gets rid of the papers that aren't relevant to you. And the later passes? Well, that's when you use the really complex model, your own brain, to dig in deep on the ones that really matter. So each pass has a very clear question it's trying to answer. Step 1, the skim, is just, should I even read this? Step 2 is about the narrative. Okay, what's the story here? Step 3 gets into the details. How does this thing actually work? And step 4 is mastery. How can I use this myself? Now let's see this in action, starting with the most important, most time-efficient steps. These first 2 passes are designed to give you the most possible information in the least amount of time. This is your high-level filter, and it's a game changer.
Okay, check this out. The first pass takes you about 10 minutes. That's it. Your goal is just to get the gist. You read the title, the abstract, and you look at the figures and their captions. That's usually enough to decide if the paper is even worth your time. If it is, great. You invest another 20 minutes for the second pass. Here, you carefully read the introduction and the conclusion. That gives you the whole story. Here's the problem we were trying to solve, and here's how we solved it.
Now, here is a pro tip that will save you a ton of mental energy. You see that related work section? On your first couple of passes, just skip it. It's usually super dense, filled with tons of citations, and it can really bog you down. You can always come back to it later if you need to.
So at this point, you've decided a paper is relevant and you understand its core story. Now it's time to actually go deeper. These next passes are where you move from just having a high-level idea to getting real, detailed comprehension. So for your third pass, you're going to do it. You're going to read the entire paper, from beginning to end. You're going to follow the author's whole argument, their methods, their results, all in order. But there's a catch.
And this is the part that sounds crazy, but it is so important. On this pass, you actively ignore the complicated equations. Don't try to understand them. Your goal here is to understand the concepts. What's the intuition behind their approach? If you can get the what and the why down first, the math becomes so much easier later.
And now, finally, you're ready. For your fourth pass, you go back and read it all one more time, but this time, you focus on the math. And because you already get the big picture, you know the story, the equations aren't just a bunch of random symbols anymore. They're the language that's describing a system that you actually understand.
You see, reading a paper is one thing, but really mastering it, that's a whole other level. The final part of this whole process is to go from being a passive reader to being an active participant with the knowledge. This is how you really make it stick. So after you finish all your passes, you have to ask yourself these 4 questions. This forces your brain to summarize and synthesize everything. What was their main goal? What were the key ideas? How can I use this, and where does this lead me next? It's a simple little exercise, but it makes a huge difference. Now, if you want to achieve true, deep mastery of a really important paper, this is the path. First, you read it using the system we just talked about. Next, you grab a pencil and paper and try to rederive the main equations yourself, from scratch. And finally, the ultimate test, you try to re-implement the code. That's when you discover all the little hidden details. And the crucial thing here is that this is a skill that builds over time. Andrew Ng suggests that if you systematically read about 50 to 100 papers in one specific area of AI, you'll develop a very, very good understanding of that entire subfield. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And really, at the end of the day, the goal here isn't just to collect facts. Like Andrew Ng says, it's about finding the work that lets you learn, lets you grow, and ultimately lets you do something meaningful that can help other people. This skill is just a tool to help you do that. So there you have it. A systematic, less stressful, and way more effective method for reading AI research. You now have the key to unlock some of the most advanced knowledge on the planet. So the only question left is, what breakthrough are you going to go learn first?